with the last effort that we have is to practice non-personalism in, you know, the ocean of these lower creatures and beings of just what it is, like these like dwellers, you know, these like, you know, these low dwellers of just beings, you know, because obviously, like, you know, within the whole new evolution of just human, we don't have to be what something else is. And for whatever something else came to be what they are right now, they have to like find their own track record of responsibility as is, you know. So I did a video earlier, now I'm redoing the video because like you know, there's just like a whole like, you know, little whirlpool of vibes when like, you know, someone tries to like stare you down and you know, you try you like you literally they're starved for human connection, and when you actually like reply and say something and hit them up about something, they're just like a fucking they're just a fucking animal, you know. but um but obviously somehow giving them love, you know, because I'm redoing this video and seeing like you know, we could ask how we got to where we're at, you know. There's no brush off the paint, you know, or there's no paint off the brush tip when just, you know, wanting to like see. I'm not even ready to paint the canvas. I'm just seeing what brush is good for me, you know, what audience is good for me. So the audience is like, you know, it could be your paint brush in just in a different way, because obviously in the end I think, you know, the whole Sag theme is like also like needing like some type of community. But I'm redoing this video and I'll like, you know, add, you know, some stuff in the summary to what I said in the earlier 3-minute video, because obviously I said a lot of like stuff intuitively, freshly in its own different way. And yeah, it's like there's no we don't have to make it a thing, you know. We don't necessarily have to make it a thing that like where we're at, what we're doing for ourselves, like we have to like kind of guard that, you know. And if we don't guard that, you know, false intrusions of certain energies could be here, because I could ask like, why are you here on this channel? You're trying to get your fill, you're trying to get your scapegoat in, you're trying to get, you know, something that you're lacking as far as attention, you have some sort of void in you, so you have to come make an imaginary subjective perspective about what your individual self thinks of me based on what you're trying to compensate and fill, based on any type of lack of like, you know, attention, or what's that other word called, or just like not more or less acknowledgement, but just like, you know, you have some type of lack of recognition, and that lack of recognition makes you like evolve how you evolve, and however you like, you know, came from your original nature self. You have a relationship with you yourself forever, and within that relationship with you yourself forever, you're ultimately treating yourself how you want to treat to, and you're ultimately numbing yourself by you blaming and talking shit about other people that you're just trying to fill a void for yourself, because you have a lack of recognition based on, you know, how we're ultimately like, you know, being focused to actually like attend to that, you know, behavior, because we don't have to attend to that behavior. It's non-personalism, but it's easier said than done, because I'm still doing it too, like, you know, because we're on some sort of like, you know, all the humans are at different levels. That's the intricacy and the uniqueness of the human itself. Like the human is just a host vessel to entertain any type of spirit, right? Any type of spirit could be in a human. That's somewhat irrefutable, you know. So and somehow I guess in the dream world I like might have like, you know, maybe fucking, you know, becoming more aware, because there's like some sort of, you know, scratch on me. But yeah, it's like, why, like, you know, why you're here, it's different reasons. Like it's not just your individuated subjective, like, you know, different context arrogant reason, you know. And I say different context meaning it's just your subjective thing. But in the earlier video I was on a different neutral tip. It doesn't hurt to ask like how we came about to be what we came about, you know. It doesn't hurt to ask that. So that's the main, you know, gist of this convo. And like, you know, after moving along from, you know, the previous brush energies of just like, you know, like the nature brush, you know, like kind of like, you know, get like, you know, trimming down all the disorganized shit like on an esoteric level though, that's what's going like that's what's happening with this video. But yeah, so it's like you know, in a different context, not necessarily per the humans, the constellations and the zodiac signs, they're their own fucking fields. And with them being their own fucking fields, they're doing stuff for the solar system differently, because it's as if the solar system is like a different spirit in itself. It's a different type of child. It's a different type of like context of of its own family, of its own like unique different shift of a self-identity, its own daughter, its own son. The solar system is that to something else, but it's its own simultaneous individual entity and shared conjoined entity by it, a channel of itself having the space within itself, and the space within itself is between whatever we're calling the planets and the constellations and the houses. And in between that, that's like the shared mutable living experiment of just like, you know, all the civilizations as a whole, not just like, you know, certain type of isolated humanity species, but like multiple different humanity species coming together to like go through a bigger experiment as well, you know, like. And within that, it's like we don't necessarily have to get like too tied down on how things came to be, but it does like, but we all have our own intellectual reasons, and there might need to be some clues we may need to find to see how things got to where they're at. Because I'm just trying to figure out, like, you know, eventually after some different story that already happened from the pre-aforementioned casual, subtle, modest equation that was given, is eventually after like, you know, a crusading of a time period and a time age, and that time big long width time span of a transition, eventually there's conclusive like significant, you know, closing points and just defining points of how, like, you know, however, you know, however time got created to begin with, that was based on a different reflection of like, you know, God, and how he divided himself, and how he divided himself was simultaneously himself and not himself in so many different ways. So this is like, what is the not self of God itself? You know, what is God's not self? If you even like, you know, fancy to believe in God or not, you know, and if you don't fancy to believe in God, then, you know, that's the beauty of like this fucking infinite life. It's like you're entitled to feel however you feel. If you come on my channel, you know, obviously there's a certain type of like what you are-ness is there, you know, this is what you are, this is like what you're trapped in, as far as like a dark gas of a mind cloud or a minefield. You're in your own, you know, darkness and etc., you know, some type of energetic, societal inducing, provoking stupor that's happening literally. And like my underground shit makes me more like attuned and balanced and equilibrium these days, because you don't know like what I've also solved for the like the bigger picture of things. And I'm not trying to, and that's just what it is, you know. I'm like, because obviously somewhere along the line, like, we're asking for this, you know, whatever we're like, you know, ultimately feeding as our psychological habits, we're ultimately asking for it, we're feeding it. We can't find a proper replacement because we don't have that, you know, that grace, that association, or that intelligence to solve the fucked up thoughts that are happening. Because those fucked up thoughts, they're actually older than you think, they're more dry than you think, they're more outdated than you think, they're more irrelevant and obsolete that you think, and they're more actually recognized on different higher fields than you think, which makes it a bigger irrelevance and a different type of new perspective on how it's just outdated in itself. But not just to talk about that, because this is mature intelligence, mind you, like pause with that recollection of a cerebral talent. But I wish I could, like, you know, we're all upgrading with, like, you know, the tech too, because it's like I'm taking a video, but it's not like, you know, I can't like I can't do like, you know, two things at once for some reason. But now you can, you know, maybe you can, like, within a different field. But like maybe I could look at the past videos, like my library video right now, while taking a video, you know. It's like, but, and in the beginning of this video, I said something along the lines metaphorically of like, you know, Tony Stark's great grandfather. And what I meant by that was like, you know, this is the shit that was like way before he was even born, you know, respectively and neutrally. And I'm saying that because it's like how this shit got inherited on a deeper resetted time phase, time period, time stage within those time dynamics particularly with the higher octave spirituality, most truly and genuinely and purely, is it's like you could ask, like, how did Venus end up being like something of like, you know, an inheritor, or like a deep spiritual leader for certain constellations. She's like a chief for Taurus and Libra. Like Venus somehow in her many different forms, Inanna, Ishtar, whatever title she took over at, like on an energetic level, and now she has her own what do you call that, grandchildren, and her own like you know, the beings that she created, like after, you know, there's a certain word for it, but I can't get the word. It's like the opposite of ancestors, you know, the heirs, and the, you know, the next generations or whatever. So like the next generations, like her, like, you know, the family she gets created, obviously they're using her title that she ultimately prescribed, because she was a different type of progenitor for a different type of genetic tribe, you know. So it's like that's like the most recent nearby wave of humans. It's like it's Earth and Venus. Those are the recent human beings, because all the planets have their own like very niche variation of humans, and it could be said Saturn too, because, you know, Saturn in his own like, you know, ways, he was kind of like at different deeper times, like 24,000 years ago, like there was like an aversion to like the humans themselves. You know, the humans were just an idea. The humans weren't even a thing, you know. So it's like all the planets themselves, they have a unique niche of how they have like they didn't necessarily create a particular human race, but they created a particular like human within the time wave and the time stage, and how like it was just a new modification, and more add-ons were added to make something of like, you know, whatever you're calling like, you know, a 10, you know, Latin, European, American, whatever that is, because that's just the basic standard mud of it, you know. That's like the most basic mudness of it. And on the recent video, I was like, because like sometimes videos in this camera get cut off, but it's like, you know, what if the dog, you know, was calling the shots for a day, you know, somehow, you know, because obviously we're all dog lovers out there, but within those dog lovers, it's like, you know, we're like the total caretaker for them, pretty much, like majority. So like, what if they were that for us? Because we're seeing them poop, we're feeding them, we're giving them like liquids and waters, we're taking them on adventures, and we're pretty much like like we're taking care of them, and we're giving them a bed to eat, I mean a bed to stay, you know. So like within that, it's like those are like some big responsibilities. But what if, like, you know, the dog, like it was the dog's turn to do that for you, because the dog has been so vulnerable for you, and now it's like you can't fucking respect your own dog. It's just like we're not necessarily understanding how it's all unique, and all there's different types of comparisons that are just completely irrelevant, because in the end it only has to do with like you know, it only has to do with like yourself. And, you know, and whatever we're comparing, we could just be like numbing our own, you know, how we lack self-love for whatever deep reason. Because like then the mystery within that gap is like saying like the mystery within that gap is actually asking like, how did God be so powerful for God to trick us, for us to lose the recollection, and how he could have always been in control the whole time, and this is just an advanced matrix illusion ordained and controlled by like the original source God. So that's the thing, like that's what Maya and the illusion is, and he's allowing you to entertain whatever desires, habits, psychological patterns, and pursuances that you're going, irrespective and regardless of, even if you know how, like, you know, the nature laws and the system works of like of like, you know, the original spiritual mechanics or whatever, you know, like, because we don't necessarily know how that works, you know. HD, quote unquote HD end quote, that's like a good recent like nearby kind of surface level thing, because that's just like, that's for the humans, you know, that's entertaining the humans on how some other fucking shit works. And and I'll probably go underground after this, because the memory's testing me here. It's okay to go underground. And the basis of this video was me trying to see how like Venus has different functions, a daytime and a nighttime. And if you see that on a solar system level, Venus is like kind of overseeing the spleen and the third eye of the solar system, you know, because the second house, Taurus, that's third eye, that's ajna. So Taurus is the ajna and the top of the throat, and the top of the throat is the receiving end of the throat chakra. So the second house, Venus, the ajna of the solar system, in one rough example, she has like prominent inheritances of Taurus and Libra constellations on an as above zodiac sign. So that's the spleen and the vision, pretty much. So that's why it could be kind of like a, you know, that unique 150 angle. The 150 angle is seeing how like two contrasting chakra elements of their own physiological chambers, they're having such a unique combination that it could be unsure when